back to EQ Planes. Today I'll be showcasing my retro airline model collection. I do have a pretty sizable fleet of them. I'm going to go over each one in detail. What I considered retro was anything retired over 10 years ago. So yeah, let's get into the video. Start off with my only 1 to 200 model, the Canadian Airlines A320. Canadian Airlines used to be a very large airline in Canada from about mid-80s to 2001 when they were bought out by Air Canada. They used to have large operations to Asia as well as operations to Europe and throughout Canada, and had a pretty diverse fleet. This airplane was pretty new to them at the time. I think it was only around 5 years old when the buyout happened. This particular airplane, Charlie Foxtrot Delta Charlie Alpha, did go to Air Canada, had a brief stint with Air Canada Jets, and went back to mainline Air Canada and was only retired, I believe, in December of 2020. Went down to Kansas City Airport, where they've been sending most of their Airbus family aircraft that are being retired. So you can see you have the Canadian Airlines member up here. And another fact about Canadian Airlines is they were one of the founding members of Oneworld. So you have this blue model. This also wasn't their last livery. They had another livery towards the end of their lives. They formed from CP Air, which is why they have this red bit up here that used to be on CP Air airplanes to an extent. And yeah, that's my Canadian Airlines. Next up, we have an aircraft I have wanted for a very long time, an Air Canada 767. Now, I did want a 300ER, but this is what I could find. The 300ER is incredibly rare, and this is not quite as rare as the Air Canada 767 300ER, but it is still pretty rare. These were retired back in 2008. I have one in the toothpaste blue livery. I did fly a lot of Air Canada 767s, quite fond memories of them, and I never got to fly the 200 to my knowledge, but I did fly the 300ER several occasions. So yeah, we have it in the normal toothpaste livery. You have the kind of toothpaste color areas. You have the Air Canada logo and lettering, and then the tail with a darker green registration number. So yeah, I believe this particular one was retired in around 2008. Now, another part I have from an Air Canada 767-200 is from the Gimli Glider. Now, the Gimli Glider was an airplane that Air Canada 767-200, which ran out of fuel and landed on a small airstrip in Gimli, Manitoba. And this is an actual piece from that airplane. Got this for Christmas, one of my favorite things. Yeah. Now let's continue on with my Canadian Airlines collection. This is their 747-400. Air Canada kept these for a bit until I believe around 2004. This particular one is the Max M Ward. It did go to Aero Airlines, Argentina, and yeah, it's been since scrapped, and yeah, pretty cool. Another thing I forgot to mention is Canadian was created by a merger in between CP Air and Pacific Western. And yeah, very good model. This is Dragon Wings. I do like the 747 molds a fair bit. And yeah, now let's move on to another Canadian Airlines. So this next one is a Canadian Air Cargo 737-200. This aircraft is still flying with, I believe, Aloha Airlines, or something, not Aloha Airlines, but Transair Cargo in Hawaii. It is a 737-200, and it used to fly for Canadian Airlines as an air cargo plane. I believe it was a combi. My dad used to work for Canadian Airlines, and he used to do the conversions on these planes. So yeah, now let's move on to yet another Canadian Airlines aircraft. We have Canadian Airlines DC-10 in the special signature livery. Now, the DC-10s were not carried over in the merger, and this airplane, I believe, was retired with the merger and was scrapped at Pinal Air Park. This particular aircraft, very cool. They have the different signatures all over the planes from top-ranking members at Canadian Airlines, and Yeah, in the standard livery. Here we have a CP Air DC-8 in a special livery Skybus Aerobus. CP Air was a very large airline in Canada throughout the mid-80s and the 70s. This very nice orange color to it. Yeah, this is their DC-8. I'm not sure what happened to this aircraft. I think it may have been scrapped in Montreal. But yeah. Next model is, I believe, fairly rare, along with most of those Canadian models I presented. A Dragon Wings 747, I believe 200, with Ward Air. Ward Air used to be a large Canadian holiday airline until they were bought out by Canadian Airlines back in the late 80s. They were very quality focused and orientated with good prices and are generally considered one of Canada's best past airlines, and from the people that I've heard that have flown on it, it was an excellent airline. This is their creator, Max Ward, actually recently died in November 2020. He was something 99 years old. But yeah, it's very simple livery, Canadian flag up here, Ward lettering, the red stripe leading to Ward Canada. And yeah, next up we have Canada 3000, which during the 90s and early 2000s was also a large holiday airline in Canada. They were a fairly no-frills airline. I believe they went bankrupt in 2004 or 2003. Very, once again, simple livery with red engines. Formed from a British airline called, I think, UK 2000, but I'm not sure if I got that name right, but yeah, they played lots of budget flying between Hawaii and somewhat like what Air Transat does today. And yeah, pretty cool. Next up, I have the Air Canada L1011. So, yep, this is Air Canada's L1011. They flew, I believe, into the 90s, and then were retired. This particular plane, I believe, flew for Delta before being retired. Yeah, this livery was large livery for Air Canada during the 80s, and that's when the plane did most of it. I wasn't sure whether this one I should include, as it's technically about a year off the deadline I had given of 10 years for being considered retro. I thought I would anyways. This is the WestJet 757 now. They leased it from North American Airlines back, I believe, in 2012, and it was briefly painted into a quick WestJet livery where it flew with WestJet for that year. They were doing long haul experiences with flights in between Calgary and Maui, and other places. I believe they also had Honolulu, and this would eventually lead to them buying 767s. Now, I did fly with a WestJet 757, however, it was not in this WestJet livery, as they had leased them from Thomas Cook. I flew the Thomas Cook 757 3 times with WestJet. So, yeah, pretty simplistic livery, just having the WestJet logo on the back here and front here. Yeah, I believe this aircraft now flies for FedEx. Next, we have the Air Canada DC-8 now. The Air Canada operated the DC-8s for a pretty long time. They took delivery of them in the 60s, and they didn't fly with Air Canada with passengers. They stopped flying them in the 80s, but I believe until the mid-90s, they did fly them as cargo airplanes, and now Air Canada's going back to that with their new 767 cargo airplanes that will be coming. But yeah, you've got this is a bit different from that Air Canada L1011 livery. I showed you the red's a bit darker. You also notice this black part at the front of the nose. This was their livery during the 70s, which they adopted after their 60s liveries, which were used on their propeller airplanes. And yeah, that's Air Canada DC-8. Now here we have the Air Transat 757. Now this aircraft, they had this livery for a brief period of time from late 90s to around 2004, I believe, and I believe the last one of these planes were painted over the year I was born, 2006. So yeah, they retired though the 757s in 2004. But yep, this aircraft livery was used on the L-1011 and A310s and A330s, along with the 757s. I believe this aircraft flies for JetBlue now. I mean, not JetBlue. Jet2 in the UK. You have the red stripe down here. It says www.airtransit.com, and you got the blue bit under the nose here, the Air Transit letterings, and a blue, sky blue star with a cloud in it. And yeah, that is the Air Transat 757. Now here we have the US Air RJ100. This airplane's known by several names. But yeah, I didn't find much data on this aircraft, but this is in the US Air livery. We do get a lot of RJ100s around Calgary. They fly with Summit Air, and they fly with Air Caribou North. So they're still quite a popular plane around here, and I do enjoy watching them and taking photos of them and whatnot. But yeah, it's a pretty nice airplane. Now here we have the America West Dash 8. Now, this is in their last livery before America West's merger with US Airways in 2005. I believe this aircraft's in a white-tail livery now, sitting in Slovenia or something like that. Yeah, you had the America West logo, and then you got that weird sort of green color they had going. And yeah, you definitely can see how the later US Airways livery, which they received after the merger, was inspired a bit by this, with the shallow gray lines in the back there and the shallower lines on the tail. But yeah, pretty good model. Here we have one Convair propeller plane. This is with Republic. Now, Republic still flies, although they do regional operations for United and American, I believe. They used to be their own entity, though, flying their own aircraft. I believe they did have 727s as their largest plane at some point. But yeah, you still have these aircraft. They still fly with Kelowna Freightcraft. Pretty rare airplane other places, but I've seen a few on trips to Kelowna. So yeah, otherwise it's a pretty good model. One of my smaller ones, and yeah. Now let's move on. We have the KLM DC-9 right here. Not much to say about this. I got this at a Black Friday sale. It's my only DC-9 model. This KLM livery did not feature the full blue body that we are used to with KLM. Yeah, these engines are a bit wobbly at the back, but otherwise it's a pretty good model. Here we have the MEA VC-10. Now, this model, that back fin there is broken. It kind of clips in though, although it falls out every once in a while. Why I've not glued it in, I don't know. I guess I'm just lazy. But yeah, I believe this aircraft did fly with British Airways at some point as well in its lifetime. Yeah, pretty cool pretty cool looking plane, the VC-10, and that's why I got that one. Now here's the Malev IL-62. Now this is one of the coolest planes in our collection, in my opinion. You got the black Malev nose there, or not black, it's blue. Then you got the Malev coloring. They flew this airplane for less than a year in the 80s. This particular one, I think, ended up in Cambodia somewhere. Somewhere in Cambodia, and I believe it was scrapped there. But yeah, pretty cool model. Here we have a United 737 Classic Series. It's a pretty nice model. We get a lot of 737 Classics still around Calgary with Canadian North and other people who bring them in, sometimes even Swift Air and stuff. But yeah, you got the nice United titling. Speaking of old United liveries, there was a nice concept on Instagram I had, and there, that old Star Alliance livery, they had the different United liveries like that, which was pretty interesting. But yeah, I do like this United livery a lot. This particular aircraft, I believe, took its final flight back in 2009. So yeah. Anyways, let's move on. We have the American Airlines 727. Now, I do like this. This is from JC Wings. It's got that nice chrome finish to it. This airplane was converted to cargo and retired in 2003. This particular one, I believe. I do have 3 American Airlines retro planes. The MD-80, which isn't in this because it wasn't retired that long ago. But I do have the American Airlines DC-10 as well, which I'll get to later in the video here. But for some reason, I do not have a new livery American Airlines, which I definitely need to get. So, yeah. Anyways, oh, they also still have one of these sitting at Boeing Field in Seattle, just in case anybody wanted to know. Here we have the U.S. Airways 737-400. We do have, they do have the 737, I believe, 200 version of the front section from about there of the U.S. Airways, U.S. Air 737-200 at the Museum of Flight in Seattle. But yeah, we picked up this model for cheap. The tail was glued on at some point in the past, but that's fine because we got this for like $20. So yeah, moving on to the next one. Now here we have a Ethiopian Airlines 767, and they're old colors. Now, the Ethiopian Airlines 767 did have a pretty infamous incident involving a terrorist attack, and it ditched off the coast of a beach. They actually had it on video, and it ripped apart in the water. However, I believe it was 50% of the people did survive, including the pilots. However, that terrorist did die, thank God. You had the, you have the Ethiopian line up here, and then you have the line of yellow, red, and green that goes up, down by the tail here, and yeah, I believe this aircraft went to Ethiopian cargo. This wasn't the one that was used in the attack. Next, we have the Northwest A320. Now, I did want to get a Northwest Airlines aircraft, which is why I got this one now. It's a Gemini jet, so, of course, the engines are on the larger side, to say the least. It does look like a Northwest Airlines A320neo, which didn't exist. But, yeah, it's a pretty nice model. Northwest Airlines did their merger with Delta, I believe in 2010, and yeah, pretty good model. Here we have the SAS 747-200 in the Viking ship livery. So you got the Viking ship, which has got the dragon's head on the front here, which goes all the way to the back. It's a very old Gemini Jets model. I think it's maybe 2003 or something like that, and you can see it's got the curve there where it wasn't attached then. But yeah, this is a pretty good mold from Gemini Jets, and I do like this model quite a bit. We have the British Airways Concorde. This is from Gemini Jets' new release. You can see the bottom. I've heard their 1-200 version's very good, but generally, I do not get 1-200 models. So, yeah. Yeah, pretty good model. The Delta 757. I do like this Delta livery lot that I'd get one of these. I've only flown Delta once. I flew one of their 767s in something like 2008. I barely remember it, but yeah, this is they got rid of this livery in the late 90s, and then they had one livery for a few years that looked kind of bad in my opinion, and then they had the wavy gravy livery, and then in 2007 they got their newer livery. But yeah, I do like the 757 a lot. The 757, I believe, still flies with them. From the last time I checked, it may have changed though. And yeah, Pan Am A310. This is a Gemini Jets model. The only thing you'll notice about this one is its wings bend down a little bit, but it's okay. This was Pan Am's later livery. This airplane now flies for FedEx. But yeah, pretty good model. So this is Malaysian Singapore Airlines 707. The interesting thing about this is this airline is the grandfather to both Singapore Airlines and Malaysian Airlines. Both airlines separated out of this airline and went their own ways. You can tell somewhat of the Singapore Airlines colors with that black and yellow, but it's more goldish now with the Singapore Airlines, I guess. But yeah, this is a pretty good model. Here I have my next DC-10. This is the Sun Country DC-10. It was a cheap model at Prairie Models. It's a pretty cool one. You got the Sun Country here. To my knowledge, this is the largest aircraft Sun Country ever operated. Yeah, I believe they retired this in the early 90s. We have the Egypt Air 767-300ER, or 300, I believe. This aircraft is pretty nice. You got the horse from Egypt Air there. And then, yeah, quite different from what their current livery is, but yes, pretty good. Here we have the LL707. Now, this airplane's a little interesting because different to some of the other 707s we have. So let's use this one here. It's got this part on the end. This one doesn't. And on the back of the aircraft, you can see it's got a box here. Now, I believe the reason why is LL often outfits their airplanes with flares and other defense, because Israel is quite a contentious area in the world, and they value safety a lot. So I know they do still fit their new airplanes with these. So I believe those modifications that we see are flares or other safety modifications for the airplane. The Gulf Air 767. Now, I do have the Gulf Air retro livery 787 because I did see that particular aircraft being built on my tour of the Boeing factory in 2019. But the one thing I noticed is something the retro livery got wrong is this red is a lot darker than what was on the retro livery. But yeah, pretty good Western Airlines DC-10. Now, this is one of few models that did come broken at one point. This bottom area came out, but it's snapped back in nice and fine. It's perfectly good now. Very few of my models have come broken. However, I've had to do a few more repairs as of late. But yeah, it's got that very nice chrome finish to it, and it is a pretty good model. Here's my Mexicana A319. This aircraft I did in a boxing the other day. This is the 85th anniversary now. The thing about Mexicana is, if Mexicana was still around, they would be, I believe, the world's oldest airline. So yeah, pretty interesting. So we got the Dragon Wings, American Airlines DC-10. Now, this one doesn't have the same chrome finish as my other old livery American Airlines aircraft, but it is still quite nice. You've got the American Airlines logo and such around the aircraft. So, yeah, it is a pretty cool model. But yeah, there's the underneath side and stuff. But yeah, I do like Dragon Wings DC-10. Here we have the Hawaiian Airlines DC-10. Now, this aircraft, I believe, was retired in 2003 when the 767s came. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I believe this did come from American. These liveries, the normal Hawaiian livery at the time was not chrome. However, their DC-10s were in those colors. And this is a fake registration is what I found out. But I believe some of their aircraft did end up going to FedEx. So yeah, now let's move on to our final aircraft. Yep, our final aircraft is the Lufthansa Lockheed Constellation. It's a pretty good model from Aero Classics, and yeah, I'd like to hope to see you guys back next time. And leave a comment if you stay till the end of the video. And bye. See ya.